stimming. Mwah, mwah. Yes, 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 yes. Stimming. Any self-engaging behavior that stimulates your own system, stimulates discharge and circulation. It is wild to me. I actually haven't checked in a little while. I should have checked before this video, but I've checked many times through the past number of years. And stimming in neurodivergent people has been this mysterious thing. I don't understand why it's so mysterious. Like, what people are doing is just discharging and circulating energy. And it's like neurodivergent, and particularly like more extreme expressions of neurodivergence, like non-verbal neurodivergent people who are here insistently drawing our attention to the fact that we as humans are primarily non-verbal. And what do they also have trouble denying? The need to stim, and stimming enables discharge and circulation. And the people that come here as expressions of extreme neurodivergence, extreme autism, and are called disabled or diseased, they're just not denying the disability and the dis-ease that exists in the population who are denying themselves of discharge and circulation. These people are like so pure and soulful, like so honest and kind. They're energetically as honest and kind as people get, other than people who are very enlightened, who have reclaimed themselves from the forgetting. There's a flexibility and an openness, but in trying to get along and still being human and being on the journey that we just went through, there is this desire to please the caregiver and the environment. And so there does become a rigidity, a real attachment to certain behaviors, certain like foods, routines, etc., because we are trained that you cannot be pure flexibility and openness. And so they're doing their best. And I'm saying this probably imperfectly, but I have been a caregiver for a nonverbal autistic person, and I've really explored the subject of okay, that helped to illuminate for me that I am autistic. That explains my whole experience all along. And nobody was really available to celebrate that discovery with me. They're like, oh, why don't you just focus on the positive? I was like, this is the most glorious moment of my life, where I finally feel like I belong in my own experience. But working with Claire, I had this incredible opportunity to explore our sameness and our differences, and to really realize that like me being considered high functioning was a crock of shit. You know, I'm not high functioning because I can talk, because I've got this fluency with the English language. That doesn't make me high functioning in a way where I feel like my needs are getting met, where I feel okay with myself in the world. Yes, that enables me to get a job and seem more normal. And yes, I've been really able to mask, but not sustainably. The mask always crumbles. The psyche shatters when I attach myself to any specific personality or identity for too long, because that I don't, trying to hold that identity, I don't give myself enough discharge, and my system melts down to reset me, because I am autistic. I am here to be undeniably expressing our authentic openness and flexibility. That's how I understand neurodivergence, and I think it is a leading edge conversation on this earth. And I think all neurodivergent people, which I've come to consider, that I heard a fact that only 40% of people have active inner dialogue. And I was like, are you serious? Like, that'd be so weird to not have inner dialogue. But okay. That explained to me what the neurodivergent population is the people with internal dialogue. And internal dialogue is like this inability to shut off the fucking fact that we are telepathic, that we are emotionally, psychically overlapping. Like, we are in the collective consciousness. It's an inability to deny the center of your own psyche. But most of us were trained to be scared of the center of our own psyche. So then we're scared of ourselves. And so then we're clinging to expressions of ourself that kind of made our family happy or okay, or that was like emphasized as like, yes, lean into that. Oh, okay. Attach yourself there. That can define you, and we can be more okay with you if there's a definition that we can attach you to. So we get rigidly attached to identities or routines or specific expressions, specific words, specific labels. We're just here to blow all of that up. I was going to say blow it out of the water, but it's really like the water rushing through. We're here to promote and breed permission that letting the water flow through, stimulating, stimming, lets the water flow through. It reclaims ourselves from the repressive, reactive patterns that have been imprinted, that have been perpetuated, passed on through generations, through centuries, long time. I've been getting a lot of body talk, body code, emotion code, belief code the past couple years. I have a particular practitioner that I love. You can email me anytime. I'll give you her information. But some of the stuff we've been digging up is like this repressive or reactive pattern, emotional pattern that was like 17 generations old. How, like, that's hundreds and hundreds of years that this emotional pattern has been passed down through the people in this family line. And that's a long time to be like stunted in the expression of your own soulfulness. And it's soulfulness that actually lets us feel the relatedness and the connection. And so we've been distorted that, like, repeating these patterns, belonging, mirroring these repressive, reactive, emotional patterns, these coping mechanisms, that's become our sense of belonging. That doesn't feel like justice in our own system. It feels like survival. It feels like I have to be afraid or else I'm going to die or be exiled. And we have to become comfortable. We ultimately, those points of tension that we were talking about in the last video are points of becoming comfortable with death and exile in our own self, like no longer being afraid of that, actually trusting life, trusting ourselves. Most of us don't have that trust factor in full form, and for most of us it's pretty darn squashed. It's like the thymus there has become this hard burger. It's become very like cemented, crusted over, just unwell, not functioning. Even if the external performance is high functioning, like, what's really happening there? How do you actually feel? Probably ridden with stress, because what stimming does for us is it allows our emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual aspects of ourselves, right? Spiritual openness, that baby wisdom that we come in with, the nonverbal primary language wisdom. That's our openness. That is our spirituality, okay? It allows that to be on, for us to be tapped in and turned on. and to feel held in our connection to everything, to feel recognized in our connection to everything. That feeds the discharge, feeds feeling safe with ourselves to flow, to let the emotion flow, as opposed to getting stuck and then expressing through reactive and repressive emotional patterns. Instead, that electric energy that would get stuck there, that's causing that behavior, that's trying to draw your attention to it so that you can rectify the stuckness, because that energy is meant to be recycled with the earth and with source, because we are these naturally spiritual beings that are so supported to be here in these bodies, moving energy. So we are spiritual, we're emotional, and discharge allows us to be as emotional as we are, as we can be honest with the emotion if we're not scared of it. And having a conscious, active relationship with discharge at this point is what's needed to feel safe with ourselves, as emotional as we are, as electric as we are. If you prefer the word electric over emotional, you go for it. Okay? We are these electric beings. Emotion is charged energy. It is electric. So we are this electric circuitry that needs flow. And in an electric circuit, if there's a blockage, well, then the electricity can't get through to all the parts. And so it's like the light in this part of your house doesn't work, etc. Right? The openness is injured. And so we need to discharge to take away the injury so that the circuitry can flow, circulation. And then our physical health is brilliant. We are vital. And not only is the physical health vital, the energy is flowing through the physical body, which allows vitality, but it also allows really excellent manifestation of the intentions that you trust in yourself, because you're not short-circuiting. It scared me. Because you're not short-circuiting. And because you're in your spirituality of trust and relatedness to all things, feeling connected, feeling safe with yourself. Wow, rapidly manifesting best case scenarios. Excellent. So we're spiritual, emotional, physical. Ooh, this one was actually mental. Physical is up here. But so that's okay. Everything still applies, but I'll just revamp this, that we're spiritual, emotional, and then this adolescent portion is the really mental part. And so that physical part, then the instantaneous manifestation or the manifesting of best case scenarios and being in your vitality is the fourth portion that we'll mention again in a sec. But we're spiritual, we allow the emotional flow, which relaxes the mind. It takes care of our mental reality, and we don't have to feel ourselves as like insane or mental because we're not scared of ourselves. We're not short-circuiting because there's that emotional flow, because we're getting enough discharge. So the energy can circulate through the system in a way that's so much easier on the brain, where we're not trying to think and figure our way through, and then when that gets exhausted, oh, we're bouncing back here to the lizard brain that's just reacting, or that's just expressing reactive or repressive emotional coping patterns like an animal that's not even allowed to be an animal, that's been told, you bad animal. And so then there's all of this, oh, I'm not an animal, I'm trying to think and figure my way through, and then that gets exhausted, and then it's like, I'm just an animal. But we're meant to be both this brilliant consciousness and this primal animal. And so we get to do that when the higher mind is illuminated, relaxed. That happens naturally. You don't even have to understand that. That's just what happens naturally when the emotion is flowing. That relief and like, oh, you have a good cry and then the answer comes. It's because the higher mind, like the whole mind is working together now, and your intuition is on. The highest state of the mind is to listen. To listen, not to think and figure. Then your listening moves through the thinking and figuring part of your brain to intend to project the vision. And that's what takes us into the manifestation. So your system is vital because your circulation is happening. We just went through the parts of the mind, and that's one example of all the pieces of a system being high function, actually respectfully high functioning, because they're all cooperating, they're all getting what they need, they are all being recognized in their own aspect that they really have to contribute. And so that happens in the brain, but also in the whole body system. And your body isn't, it's not alone. It's plugged into the earth, it's plugged into source. Your circuitry is not just, you're not just cycling, like trying to survive on cycling the same energy through your body and brain. You feel safe with yourself to actually be circulating energy through your whole body and brain because you're plugged in, because you're part of something bigger, and you feel safe with that because of the openness, because of the discharge. So now you're circulating really well, which lets you be in high expressions, like high frequency, like elite expressions, what's been named elite, what we've been made to feel like, oh, we have to reach for and we can't quite get a hold of, and that's only for people with money or who had these perfect conditions. It's available to us, but we have to discharge those repressive reactive beliefs that we're separate from it. And so energy is moving through the system because we're stimming, because we're self-stimulating discharge, to remember our openness, to feel safe with our circulation so that we can be as flexible as we are, which means elite expressions of health, wealth, love, and happiness, and best case scenarios so that you can this lifetime, and sooner than later too, manifest your best case scenarios inside and outside, because that's just the natural repercussion of there being justice, balance, and harmony in your own system. Your system is that spirituality, emotionality, mentality, and physicality. And then, so the state of coherence or cooperation between those 4 layers of being, that defines your morality. You don't have to work to be particularly moral. Like, that's not something you have to focus on. That is the byproduct of discharging and circulating for flexibility and openness. Your openness is very moral. It's very just. It is an acceptance and an acceptance, a non-judgment that allows for the circulation. There isn't a rejection of anything in our pure openness. We don't have to fight for anything. And so there is just this authentic, natural morality. And so if we can discharge and circulate for flexibility and openness, we will be these embodiments of justice. That's how stimming saves the world. We're programmed to go out and try to change things that are going on in the world. And okay, if that is, I don't know everybody's mission, and maybe that is part of your expression that you're here for, but are you DCFO'd when you're taking that action? That would be my question to you, because in my experiencing and understanding, that's what's imperative for you to actually be able to make the impact that you are setting out to make. This is our portal of impact, and this is the only place we have control. This is the domain of control, your relationship with your body and your energy bubble as a spiritual, emotional, mental, physical thing. And that gives you access to quantum impact, to actually shifting the narratives that are at play, the expressions of collective consciousness that are overlording, creating the world that we see. We have power to impact that narrative particularly through our frequency. And how do we choose our frequency? We remember these conversations. And there are lots of cool people on earth that are talking about this in different words. I trust that everybody will find the way that they needed to hear it to really relate to this in themselves. I'm not here for everyone, but if you've made it this far, probably excellent. We speak the same, we are attracted to, or it rhymes with our composition. The words that are coming through me as a channel, because I've been stimming, because I've been DCFOing, that's how I arrived to being able to express this and to embody this at the level that I'm at. And I'm not at the level that I ultimately am heading towards. I'm going to continue DCFOing to be as much openness, non-judgment, justice in my own system, so that is what I am contributing. That is what I care about. That is what I am doing every day. That is what my family of origin is quite confused about and thinks that I just reject them and don't accept them. And it's like, I'm just over here rewiring, repatterning, and I can trust it in my body and in my being that I wanted to belong so much that I denied myself the stimming and the relationship with DCFO that I need, that I genuinely need, that all people need. But I kept trying to force the environment and the people to come on board, to do it with me, because it was like so against the grain, because there's so much built up momentum there in the group. And I have a biological urge to belong. And so even if I did, it would fall. That doesn't have to be the case, but that was my experience. And it's part of what my purpose is, saying this out loud on the internet, is because I've been pretty alone with this. But I've also experimented. So I've shared with you that if I'm going to rhyme with a word, autism fits. The experiential inner reality that I've been having this lifetime goes with all the details of that category. And I got together with and procreated with a person who fits on what I would say is the opposite end of the human psyche spectrum, which we can use the word schizophrenic. And it was him that invited that word into my looking at him. And so I didn't go digging, but the information that's crossed my path through the years has illuminated for me the ways that these are same, but also different. And DCFO has come through our need to meet in the middle. And if we are two ends of extreme human psychology, which both naturally have that undeniable active relationship with the center of the psyche, our need is to stim. I saw over and over and over again how our life would shut down, our bodies would shut down, our minds, our ability to speak, our ability to use words and form sentences would shut down. And what we needed was the non-verbal movement of energy, and then everything would come back online. And I watched this pattern over and over again through the past 10 years. And I had already been watching myself really actively for 5 years before that, as I, in my repressive, reactive behavior, very angry, very sad, I was a really heavy drinker and I was really hurting myself. And I got a lot of concussions, like being drunk, like smashing my head on cement, etc. And so clawing my way out of that, and using community resources and experimenting with myself to come into a sober reality in my own way, and in a way where I built this trust with myself instead of relying on something external. That was my path. I feel fortunate about it, but I'm sharing this that, like, when I say stimming saves the world, I mean stimming saved me. Stimming saved my family. And our own individual self, as we've been talking about, is the portal. And then the next portal is our own home. So how we behave with ourselves, the relationship that we have with energy moving through our own body, the relationship we have with our own spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, moral self is our biggest contribution to the external reality. It is our most efficient and effective opportunity for impact. And first of all, it impacts our immediate world, our microcosm, our family, our home, our community, but particularly family and home, even before community. And so that's where I've been playing the past 15 years. First with myself for 5 years, past 10 years, really with a partner, with a family. And realizing that in creating another human, the two of us were holding a microcosm together. And part of what really inspires me is how could we work together in our same but different to hold an energetic bubble of harmony? Because to be very honest, at the beginning, it was very destructive, violent, just all of our trauma and pain, the anger, the sadness, like anguish is this word that's been really wanting to come through, was coming through. And that just felt awful, just more guilt and grief accumulating. And so how do you live in that? I didn't want to, but the answer came, DCFO. I got a discharge because I would see it. It wasn't always violent or pent up because we're just naturally active people. And when we were getting enough activity that equated to discharge and circulation, we would experience ourselves as flexible and open. And that was beautiful. It was like this beautiful reality, this beautiful, harmonious, deeply compassionate, self-fulfilled, interpersonally fulfilled beauty exists. This peace exists, but we were having trouble maintaining it because we were still playing into external expectations of you got to do this and things have to look this way and et cetera, meet all of these external demands, which we would let take priority over our discharge and circulation, and things would collapse and things would get ugly and things really hurt and felt awful. And then we would set agreements with ourselves and with each other. And right now, like, we are not in a romantic relationship, but I feel that our co-parenting reality is exemplary, and it's not because it's perfect. We are still dealing with the surfacing of the repressive and reactive behaviors of being these exquisitely sensitive people who were impacted by the environment on Earth of being told to deny your exquisite sensitivity and just try and be as normal and fit into this category here when we're like this, this tuned to source and this deep. It didn't work. It never worked. And so we're still excavating the pain of those experiences. So point being is that we're still discharging and getting enough circulation to be in our flexibility and openness. And I'm not saying that we get back together. I'm saying that if you wanted that for your life, this is where the possibility is. Anything that you want repaired, anything that you want in excellent order requires DCFO. So I think I experience and witness our co-parenting environment as exceptional, as exemplary, because it's anchored in DCFO. If we didn't have this shared language, the push and pull, the conflict inside ourselves would still be amped up, and the push pull between us would be amped up, and that would be brutal. I really don't like imagining if that had continued. It keeps crossing my mind, so I'll just say it out loud, that I contemplated moving across the world just to see if that could give me some room to gain traction if we weren't going to do it together. But this language came, DCFO, and we've experimented with it enough where we both we know in our bodies that it is the answer. We've proved it to ourselves that stimulating ourselves saves us from the versions of ourselves that are so sad and mad, that are so in pain, that are so fighting for justice. We found the justice. And we get off track with the justice. We're still humans. But there's this soulfulness. The openness is so powerful and so profound that it is taking over. The memory of ourselves as authentically innocent is taking over. So all of that rejection and self-hatred of the repressive reactive patterns is dissolving. It is being discharged. Does it still show face sometimes? Yeah, it does. And there's some addiction to drama, and that's dissolving. And it's so fascinating and fun to engage this. It feels so sexy and so sweet to treat ourselves as this intelligent, even though we're imperfect and still fucking it up sometimes. We feel the deep intelligence in us that understands that world peace is anchored in that place. It's going to come from that place inside of us where we respect the intelligence that we arrived with, where we're not just thinking and figuring our way through, where we're relaxed enough to deeply listen and honor that we primarily speak nonverbal. And one of the ways of engaging that, honoring that, respecting that in ourselves is stimming. And there are infinite ways of stimming. You see me on the internet, I'm tapping, I'm doing ASMR, Reiki. I love yoga. I love kundalini yoga. I love laying on the earth. I love sitting against a tree, hugging a tree. I love walking my dogs. I bounce every morning. I love talking to my water, drinking lots of water, being in the water. That's a great way of discharging. Water is absorbent. We are made of water, primarily, mostly, right? Majority water. We're absorbing charge. Being in bodies of water, we can release the water. We can release the charge into that water. We need the discharge. We need to respect ourselves as so absorbent and primarily speaking non-verbal. That we know that our bodies, that our spiritual, emotional, mental, physical system is so brilliant that once we start doing it, consciously engaging discharge and circulation, once we consciously pick up the amount that we're stimming ourselves to discharge and circulate, that brilliance comes back online where the muscle memory builds and we're just automatically doing it. We feel easy. It fits in everywhere. It's not this do I have time for a deep breath? Do I have time to lay on the earth for 10 minutes even though my body is filled with inflammation? Maybe I should just have another coffee and keep going and doing that thing. It becomes easier and easier. We feel the simplicity at the center of all the complexity, where our bodies are just leading us in the direction of the yes, 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 discharge and circulate, because everything gets taken care of and the best case scenarios are available and coming into being. Just keep honoring and respecting yourself authentically, being this refreshed definition of high functioning, discharging and circulating to embody and experience the relief of your natural, authentic flexibility and openness, your health, wealth, love, and happiness in this vital expression. I am praying for that for you in everything I do through my day as I bring myself to as much DCFO as my relationship with stroking my own ego into retirement mode. We're not killing off the ego. It was brilliant. It took on those repressive, reactive addictions to survive. You know, it gets to come along, that it's about stroking that through discharge and circulation, stroking it into retirement mode where it gets to come along and enjoy the best case scenarios, but it doesn't have to be on guard and controlling everything because we've accessed our authentic power, controlling the only thing we do have control over, which is our relationship with stimming, our own system. Moving energy in healthy, active ways through our body, owning our energy bubble and feeling the best protection that exists, which is actually inhabiting ourselves.